Welcome to another episode of Chasing Labels. I'm your host, Stephen Billings, and with me, as always, is your other host, Andrew Cabral. How you doing, man?
Doing good, Steven. Doing good. We are back here once again for a brand new episode of Chasing Labels, the first episode of the calendar year of 2023. We took a little bit of a hiatus there towards the end of 2022 to kind of take a breather because 2022 was chock full of not only stuff to do here on Chasing Labels, but just Blu-ray announcements and all kinds of cool stuff. And then we are resuming here back in January, and this is just exciting, really exciting because it's a new year with new stuff on the horizon.
Oh, yeah.
And of course, we have a guest to kick things off.
Oh, yeah. And we've been teasing it for a while. We told everybody that we were going to do our favorite releases of 2022 show, and we were going to bring in a special guest to do that with us. And nobody better to do it with the guy that just sells you all your Blu-rays, online.
Appropriate, very appropriate.
Yeah, very appropriate. He sees all of them coming in and he sends them all out to you. And that is the man behind Diabolic DVD, Jesse Nelson.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Hey, how's it going?
Hello.
Very well, thank you.
So, Jesse, of course, we're gonna, as I teased, we're gonna talk our favorite releases of 2022. But first, we want to talk about Jesse Nelson and get a little bit of background on your beginnings as a film fan, and of course the beginnings of Diabolic DVD and all that kind of stuff. But first of all, how's everything going in general?
Yeah, everything's good, thanks. I mean, it's a little late here on a Saturday night,
Yeah,
but that's all good with me.
yeah. We're talking movies. We won't keep you too long, but let's do this thing. So, Jesse, when it comes to just your love of film, where would you say that began?
My mom claims that when I was a kid, she would take me to the movies all the time, and I always wanted to see American Graffiti.
Ah,
And she insists that I've seen American Graffiti about 50 times. And honestly, it's not one of my favorite movies these days. But if she says I did, I guess. We're going way back into the early 70s there when I was just a child watching movies. But as a child of divorce in the 70s and into 80s, it was basically, depending on which weekend I spent with a parent, depended on what I would see at the movies that week.
yeah.
So my dad would take me to see Monty Python and the Holy Grail, and my mom would take me to see really anything I wanted to see. Because that's what, parents do when they're divorced. What do you want to see? American Werewolf in London, Mom. All right, I guess. So,
And moms and sons have a special relationship typically, where there's a little bit more leniency, I think. A lot of times. So is she? I believe, based off what I can tell, I know you're a fan of kind of obscure horror and things like that. Is that she helped foster that?
They both kind of did.
Okay.
When I was a kid, my dad actually owned a small distribution studio and released two movies, When the Screaming Stops and Walk of the Dead. And for years, I had no idea what these movies were. But When the Screaming Stops is Lorelei's Grasp, a Spanish horror movie.
Yeah.
And Walk of the Dead is it's a Paul Naschy movie that I can't think of at the second. It's not a good one either. It's the one that takes place in London and has zombies but the
Andrew's
poster,
helping you. Andrew's looking for it.
Well, I'm just
I can't think.
IMDb.
Vengeance of the Zombies is what
He
it
got
is.
it. He got it.
Yeah. But the poster for the Vengeance of the Zombies is just a guy hanging in a meat locker. It has nothing to do with the movie or anything. And for years I saw these posters and I just had no idea what the movies actually were. But so, my dad was also really into movies, and and we watched a lot of horror movies together over the years.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a story we hear a lot on here. A lot of time. Sometimes you get some interesting, like unconventional. And we had one guest that told us it was the filmmaker behind. I think what's it? God? I'm blanking on the movie. The director of I think they're not here yet, or think. I'm blanking. I don't know. I'm embarrassed. We just had him on like a month or two ago, and I'm blanking on the name of the documentary about the guys that are obsessed with the singer.
Oh, yes, yeah. I think we're alone
I
now.
think we're
I
alone
think
now.
we're alone
God.
now. The Tiffany movie, right?
Yeah, the Tiffany
Yes.
movie. We had the director of that movie on, Sean. I'm blanking on his last name.
Oh, Steve, you are
I know.
struggling
Well,
today.
it's fucking late. I've been up since 4:30 this morning. I've been up since 4:30.
I know. Yeah.
We did
I
an
mean,
interview this morning at 6 a.m. and now
yeah,
we're back doing
exactly.
this again.
But I'll while you're talking, I'll look it up because I'll just.
But
check.
his beginnings of film were very much where he wasn't into movies. Like he wasn't around it at all and anything. And his kind of start was kind of random as he was getting into high school, and some friends showed him, he was very sheltered. But then you hear the story a lot where, your family brings you to it. And that's how it would happen for me. Is that my parents, maybe unintentionally, they just kind of had movies around. They had a decent little VHS collection, and I just that was my comfort. I didn't. My brother's about 6 years younger than me, so for the first 6 years of my life, my only friend was movies. So I think that happens to a lot of us. It's very relatable. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that happens with a lot of us. I don't know if it's just because of the era in which we grew up in. There's that corridor of the home video market and the theater market kind of coming together, 70s and onward, where like if you weren't watching movies in the theaters, the VHS when the VHS market hit, it just kind of exploded. And I think a lot of us kind of all come from that jumbled generation where people were just trying to, figure out things to do. People don't understand before the internet, you had to figure out things to do to entertain yourself. And so there was a lot more available outside of doing things by yourself. You know what I mean? It was a communal thing with, a family thing. And I remember going to the movies with family and friends as a kid growing up in the 90s all the time. And it was just kind of like the thing to do because there was not a lot of other things to do. I grew up right before television became a big thing. Before we had digital cable with hundreds of channels, you only had basic cable, which was, I don't know, 20 or something channels. So there wasn't a lot to watch on television if you were a tiny kid. So going to the movies was like a big thing when it came to watching movies.
Yeah, it's fun. It's funny how technology it gives us better connection to people anywhere, but has kind of separated us even more in ways. It kind of does one and the same thing, makes people
Yeah,
entertain
true.
themselves by themselves, but also can also do like what we're doing right now and connect with each other in different places. It's weird. It's a weird thing, but
I
yeah,
mean, when I was a kid, I had Star Wars figures, right? That was the thing to
yeah.
do. Does anyone play with action figures anymore, or do people just buy them and collect them and put them on their shelf?
Exactly. Yeah. It's. I don't think. Yeah. I don't think that. I don't know. I don't think that's a thing unless you're just like a small child, obviously. But like,
Mm,
yeah, like I don't know. I don't know. I don't.
yeah.
Are kids playing with toys like that anymore? I don't know. I think
What
they're
is interest,
mostly playing
interest,
video games.
interesting is
Yeah,
there was an
right.
article.
Yeah.
There was an article that came out recently that's saying that the percentage of people who buy action figures and things like that are adults now. And
Yeah.
it's like kind of makes a lot of sense since we all grew up with them and now we're adults and we have the money to actually
Yeah. We
buy
can buy
them.
all the
And we
action
can
Yeah,
figures
buy
we
but
you can
want.
buy
Yeah.
all the ones you want and go back and buy the vintage ones that we had when we were kids that we may have lost or may have had along the way. And I think our generation is kind of really big into that. And also, Stephen, I did figure out who you were talking about. Sean Donnelly
Donnelly.
is the
Yeah.
director, but I think we're alone
I
now.
would have gotten that
Uh,
another day, but not today.
that
Um.
yeah, I guess so. But yeah, it's kind of interesting how, some people do come to movies early and some people come to movies later. And we've always been of the mindset that no matter what time or when you come to a certain movie. I think the most important thing is that you finally get there. It doesn't matter if you do it when you're
Yeah.
6 years old or 60 years old. It doesn't matter. You know what I mean? A
God, I'd
lot of
love to
people
have a
have the
60-year-old that just started watching movies at 60
I mean,
and
well, I
have them
meant
on the
like
show. That'd be amazing.
well, I have friends who haven't seen, like I have friends who haven't seen Star Wars. I have friends who haven't
Sure.
seen, other mainstream
I
things like The
I hadn't
Godfather or
I was gonna say
whatever.
I hadn't seen The Godfather until about 4 years ago.
See, there you
I
go.
mean, I've watched
There
so
you
many
go.
other
That's been around
things, yeah.
forever.
Um,
Yeah, there's
what
always
are sa
something that eludes us.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Jesse, is there ones that people make fun of you for not seeing yet?
For the longest time, I had never seen Maniac,
Uh-huh.
and when Blue Underground just restored it, and when they found the negative and restored it to 4K, they showed it at the Alamo in Yonkers, which is about 2.5 hours from me,
Yeah.
and I drove up there to watch it, and it was the first time I'd seen it. And Bill Lustig was there,
Oh,
so he
nice.
talked about the movie for a little bit, and it was a double feature with New York Ripper, which I had also never seen. So it
Yeah.
was two firsts that night.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah.
But is there something else that I've never seen? I mean, I'm sure there is,
I'm
but
sure there is. There always is.
there always is something that I haven't seen. But um, you know, I I try to I try to watch all the classics.
I mean, it's good
So
to be as informed as possible. I mean, I like to. It's the way we do our show in here. That's what we do. I mean, literally, the reason we do our show the way we do it is we do less. We don't cover as many announcements, but the announcements we cover, we try to watch as much of them as possible, leading up to when we talk about them. So not only can we help inform the audience, but also it's like gives us a reason to like delve into some random shit.
Yeah.
That this
yeah,
that the boutiques just curate for us. We're like, oh, all these Umberto Lenzi crime movies that just got Severin just announced. Well, we just went out. Andrew did his magic, found him online somewhere, and he sent him to me, and we tried watching them.
Yeah.
Just like
I got to watch I did a whole Umberto Lenzi 1970s police movie marathon
yeah, yeah,
in preparation. And Umberto Lenzi was a director I knew nothing about until Severin released that first the Lenzi Baker box set.
yeah,
And then that box set in and of itself kind of gives you the context of who who Umberto Lenzi was and his movies and all that kind of stuff. So it's like that's the one good thing with the boutique labels, with buying all of these movies, is you do learn a lot about movies and directors and actors and things you didn't know about before. It's really kind of an organic education. I have found it's been very rewarding. It has been just watching the movies and the supplemental materials for a lot of these releases because they give you way more than you expect. That's kind of how I recommend people to learn about movies is to watch movies. It's kind of the best education. It really is. There's nothing like it. I mean, formal education is good and fun, but getting to the heart of the matter, which is the movies, is the most important thing. And we're lucky now where we're having so many great releases come out that's very informative.
yeah. And so speaking of that, of course,
Good transition.
collecting, for you, Jesse, was collecting a big part of your early life? Did it get you into where you are now when it comes to starting up Diabolic and all that stuff? And where did that
yeah.
begin?
I mean, you don't mean just collecting movies, because
Yeah,
I have been a lifelong collector of just whatever.
whatever you
I,
can
I
find.
mentioned the Star Wars toys. I still have them all. They're
Yeah,
all still here in my basement. Um, I was really into video games as a kid. I grew up coming into, video games. I'm that generation that video games basically started when I was a kid. So,
yeah,
I don't know, 8 or 9 or 10 when Pac-Man came out. So, that was kind of the big boom. So I was really into, of course, Atari and Intellivision, and then going into Nintendo, and still today, and PlayStation. Um, I'm an avid reader, so I have just tons of books stacked up everywhere here. Movies are stacked up everywhere. I have posters in boxes that I can't even remember what I have anymore.
me too.
There's a lot of junk in around here.
Yeah,
So
I used to work at a movie theater. I got 300 posters in this closet back here.
Hmm.
yeah,
Just yeah, yeah. I
what
just
do you got in there? I bet you can't even remember everything that's in there.
a few, but not yeah, not most of them.
Yeah, I know you've gone through cataloging them,
I've tried.
uh,
I've tried.
and
Yeah.
just like
You give up
tons.
after a while. You give up. You get tired of unrolling posters and putting them back in tubes, and yeah, it's tiring. But so with the so when did starting up Diabolic DVD become a reality for you?
Diabolic became it came out of a couple of things. Um, we a couple of friends and I do a thing called Exhumed Films that we've been doing here in the Philadelphia area for a little over 20 years, where um, now we've moved from theater to theater, but basically we rent out a theater or we have some sort of monetary agreement with a theater, and we bring in some films and show everything from, we've done a double feature and we've done 24 hours in a row. So in the early days of that, I would go to the flea market. People were getting rid of their video stores. They would just come to the flea market and throw things in boxes. And I would go out there for hours and dig through them all and pull things out. And then I would bring them to Exhumed Films and resell them.
Yeah.
And then as that started drying up, I was trying to think of what to do next, and somehow connected with a shop in Hong Kong. And, people probably don't remember this, but in the early days, Diabolic was almost all Asian movies.
Mm-hmm.
That is what we did. We did Hong Kong movies. There was some Japanese stuff, some Korean stuff, but Hong Kong was the easiest thing to get. So in the early days, that is what we did. I started bringing those in, and people were really into them. So then I started selling them online. And before there was, Shopify and WooCommerce and the different stores there are now, it was just this janky website where people could come on, and I would literally update it manually with some free HTML software. And it was pretty jerky. But things moved on, and we are here where we are today with that. It
Yeah,
just
where
sort of evolved out of bringing VHS tapes to our shows and selling them.
yeah, it's crazy how it's crazy how what was the time period of that? When did that start, and then to where we are now?
We started Exhumed Films in '98,
Wow,
and Diabolic is we'll be 21 this year.
wow, that's great.
Yeah.
Mm.
So
That's like,
21
yeah,
years of legit business. So there was a couple
right.
of years before there where we were,
Starting
bringing
up,
those tapes in. So
yeah,
it's been over, pretty much that same amount of time, about 24, 25 years.
Yeah,
yeah,
and that's like people. I mean, for a lot of the younger listeners, or maybe listeners who just don't remember, um, before internet buying is a concept I don't know if a lot of people understand.
yeah,
Before the whole internet, where buying things like buying clothes, buying movies, buying music, buying whatever, that is probably only really been around for 20, 21 years or so. It's really kind of a relatively new thing, but it's so much part of our lives now that we don't even, think about a time beforehand for the most part where, you had to buy everything in store, at your local stores or at your local, chain stores or whatever the case may be. Now everything is completely flipped on its head. Just from, you know, from my perspective when it comes to collecting movies, the landscape, at least my local landscape for buying movies has radically changed over the last decade. Where basically I can only buy most of everything online now because the stores just don't have it. The brick and mortar stores just don't either carry it, or a lot of the brick and mortar stores have closed, or whatever the case may be. And it's places like Diabolic where I'm assuming you've seen a massive change in the time that you've been running Diabolic to where there's just a massive amounts of traffic now.
Yeah, it's really crazy because I kind of lament the days of being able to go out and buy things. You just, I mean, where do you even go anymore? I can't even think of any local bookstores around here. I mean, Barnes and Noble,
Yeah, I have
which I'm
Barnes and
not really
Noble.
interested in going to, and
Yeah,
um,
we have a place near where I live. The only place I can think of, and it's called Ed McKay's, and it's like a
Mm.
used bookstore. It's a used everything store, and it's just huge, and it's got tons of Blu-rays and stuff in there.
Yeah,
And that's about it. That's literally about it.
yeah. There are small bookstores that you can find and kind of holes in the wall if you know where to look. There are a lot of thrift stores.
The library,
Thr
yeah,
maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, there's thrift stores that sell lots of books now. Like local thrift stores sell lots of books. I used to my first passion, my first love was collecting books. So I spent a lot of my teenage hours walking aimlessly through bookstores. just just looking at books and just shopping and browsing and collecting books. And that kind of continued all the way through adulthood, but it's not like it used to be where you could spend hours in a bookstore. One, the pricing is vastly different now. They're very expensive depending on where you go. But movies are also kind of similar to where it's vastly different, where I wouldn't even know all the places I used to go 5 or 6 years ago. I they just don't exist anymore. And if they do exist, the selection just so bad that it's not even worth your time going. And the pricing is not worth your time either because the things you can find there are things you can find online for cheaper. You know what I mean? It's just the way the market's going.
yeah, it's
And it's
true.
kind of sad because I love the hunt. The hunt's always the funnest part.
It's
Is
great,
hunting is hunting for
but
these things.
and going back to collecting there for a second, do you guys know the book Paperbacks from Hell?
Mm-mm. No.
No,
So
no.
it's a book that came out a couple years ago that is all about terrible um, horror paperbacks from the 80s that had these great covers that you were basically sold on these covers of these books. And you could buy these books up until when this book came out. You could buy those books anywhere for nothing. They were just trash. No one cared about them. And then this book came out, and now everyone's got the paperbacks from hell. Look at this. Look at this paperback. It's $50. This
Yeah.
paperback from hell.
Yep.
So, this is how things change.
It's familiar. That
Yeah.
sounds
But
that mentality sounds familiar. Hmm.
It,
It comes with
well,
all the Blu-rays that come out now. Like, oh man, that's out. The limited slip covers out. Well, now that's worth
yeah.
100. I really want that now.
Yeah, as
Like
soon as something goes out of print or becomes rare or there's a limited amount of it, or it sells out from someplace, the third party market value just flies up.
it's crazy.
What's happened, where a lot of that happens now, what you were just saying, Jesse, is the comic book market, where the comic books are there are comic books that you could buy for dirt cheap are now worth hundreds or thousands of dollars because of whatever extenuating circumstance, whether it be a character or storylines being adapted into a movie or a TV show or whatever the case may be. It's like the stock market, really. It's just
Yeah,
kind of hearsay that kind of pushes these prices, and it's kind of just like the supply and demand and all these economic terms and whatnot. It's not that nothing has changed with the item itself. It's the value we put on it as people, and that's what keeps changing things. And
yeah,
movies have that as well. At least the collecting market does, because I'll go online and I'll see things on eBay that'll be $400-500, and meanwhile, you know 5 to 6 months ago, the website that was selling it for $60.
yeah.
So it's baffling the value people put on some things.
definitely.
It's true. Those Do you guys have your Invisible Maniac invisible slipcover?
Oh, okay. No, I
Have,
didn't.
have you
I
seen
think we
that on
missed out
eBay?
on that.
I missed
That
out.
was like
I remember when that first got popped out. I was like,
Yeah,
I'm not sorry.
Didn't we talk to Brad Henderson about
I think
that? I think.
we might have. I
Because
don't know.
we thought it was a legitimate, like, kind of a jokey thing, but apparently
I thought
it
it was a
had some
joke, right?
value. Apparently it had some value to it now. Now people want it.
Nah,
Um,
I'm okay. I'm all right. I
yeah,
know
I
Yeah,
mean, I
I'm
it's like
don't
a
glad.
particularly
sleeve. It's
want
like
it.
a sleeve protector, isn't it, or something like that? Or that's what it is.
it's the exact slipcover that's on the movie that if
Yeah.
you just buy it now, except that it's lenticular, and when you move it, the girl's clothes fall off.
Ah. Well, that's
So
cool. That's cool. But
it's cool.
the thing is
And
I wasn't going to buy that movie, so
I
I
like the
mean,
Invisible Maniac. Invisible Maniac was, you know, something that was on my list of, if I ever come across it, I want to buy that
yeah.
for Cauldron Films. It was on.
mm,
I have a list of about 50 things,
Yeah.
and then it keeps getting smaller over the last couple of years as
I,
things get snapped up.
I
But
was just gonna say things are probably getting snapped up that you had wanted, to get your hands on for distribution years ago. Because it seems like everything's being, kind of brought out of the woodworks now. Like the obscure of the obscure is coming to light from
it's
from so
true.
many different places.
Yeah.
Um,
And that's a good transition
I
because,
was gonna say you can use that transition,
yeah,
Steven.
Cauldron Films. Tell us when that became, something you thought would be a possibility to start your own little label.
You know, my timeline on Cauldron blurs a little bit because we started it not long before COVID. And then everything just seems so weird the last couple of years. I can't even remember exactly when it was. But I will tell you that the genesis of it was that my partner Brian in Cauldron Films and I were working a convention together. And he just said, why don't we just do this?
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, but do you have an idea? And he's like, American Rickshaw. I love this movie. Let's find out who's got this. And within a week, we had found out the licensor in Italy, and we're already working on buying it.
Yeah.
So it really just started there. Brian comes from, he's not only a movie guy, but he has a music background. So he's really into the weeds of software for music, and he transitioned into movies kind of naturally with the editing and cleaning software. It just suited him so well. So Brian is the guy who is cleaning everything up behind the scenes, who is, fixing the audio on things, and and does our graphic design. So he doesn't
Wow.
do, we usually pay people to do the actual artwork, but he designs all the packaging and lays it all out.
Yeah.
The style of slipcover that we use was, something that we had made from a printer. They made us the template.
Yeah.
So, that is basically the genesis of it. It was just, we were sitting around at a convention and said, he was like, I think we can do this.
She's like, well, why are we selling everybody stuff? Why are we just making our own stuff?
I mean,
Yeah.
it's literally what he said. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, that
That's
that
great,
seems
man.
to be. Yeah, I'll say that's awesome because that seems to be kind of what a lot of people that we've talked to that have started up their own label. It just gets to that point where we're just like, hey, let's try it out. Let's see what
Well,
happens.
it's like
you know?
when they see a hole somewhere where something's not being focused on, or certain films are just not being looked at, and you get to a point where there's enough of them movies where you're like, we need to just do it ourselves. I mean, like, especially like the Canadian International Picture guys, they're like,
I was just thinking of
nobody's
them. Stop reading my
nobody's
mind.
putting out Canadian films. It's like, well,
yeah.
yeah, I mean, let's do it.
Yeah, there's a hole or a gap there, or there are films that have never seen the light of day in any proper home video release or any quality home video release, and let's see if we can do it. I know the logistics behind it must be, difficult when it comes to finding licensing and then finding materials to create these releases and then all that kind of stuff. I mean, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of trial and error for a lot of people.
Well, when we came across Contraband, um, the licensor told us that the negative was unusable, and that if we wanted the license, we were going to take a chance on it. But they would scan it for us, and we could do whatever we wanted with it. And it just so happened that all coincided with COVID. And Brian literally just sat in front of a computer all during COVID and cleaned that movie and fixed it. You can't even believe what it looked like compared to what it looks like now. There was frames that were literally folded in half.
Wow.
Uh, it was a mess, and he went through and did the impossible. And even the licensor was so thrilled because we gave that back to them when we were done, and they were like, "This is so great because now we can sell it to other people." And we're like, "Yeah, why don't you hold off on a minute for that?" But yeah,
It's like we did all this work. Come on.
yeah. But
It's-
they scanned it for us for free, which no one does. But they were like,
Yeah.
it's trash, guys. So we're gonna do it for you, but we'll do it for free, but you got to give it back to us.
Yeah.
Gosh, so there was
Oh
extenuating
yeah, that was the caveat,
circumstances.
because
Yeah.
otherwise we wouldn't have given it back to him. But you know, it worked out, which
Yeah.
which was a surprise. But thanks to Brian, it worked out.
I was gonna say, Jesse, what do you do? No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. No, I'm just messing with you, man. No, yeah, that's dude. How much work that had to have taken? I mean, we've talked to a lot of people that have been doing restoring, and yeah, I mean, god damn it, that just seems so tedious having to sit. I mean, how many hours do
by
you think he
frame.
worked in front of that thing?
I think that he told me that it was pretty close to 100 million hours that he worked on that.
Oh, that's
Sounds about right.
that's
about
probably
right.
about right. That's probably about right.
I think that's about
It
right.
feels that much, at least.
Yeah.
Just
Yes.
doing some of the stuff I used to do for video editing, and these were only like a couple hours. These were like stuff with minimal editing, 3 camera setups, and that stuff. You just spend hours. You just spend a whole day. A whole day goes by in a fucking snap, and you're like, damn, I only got like half this done. Like I can only imagine what a 2-hour movie. Just cleaning that up, and then probably whatever feature stuff had to be also cleaned up. The
We're
feature
talking
stuff.
probably like
Yeah.
frame by frame, fixing errors and things like that. But then also probably color correcting that you guys
Yes.
had to do on that. Man,
And then
that's
did you do it? You did a new translation too. I'm assuming. Did you do a new Italian translation?
We did, but we had somebody do that for us.
Okay.
It was not. Neither of us speak Italian, so.
Well, I figured there would be a soft. Yeah, I didn't know if maybe he had a software and he had to do all that, and yeah.
I mean, he does time it and correct it, and
Yeah.
there's still some finesse to be done even after we have the translation.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and I was just going to say something else about that, but I was going to say that they have automated cleaning software
Yeah.
that will go through, but the problem with the software, and I'm sure you've seen this in movies, but sometimes that software thinks that motion is a scratch.
Oh,
So you'll see things where, like, maybe a guy moves his head with a cigarette in his mouth and the cigarette disappears as he moves his head.
Yeah.
It's because some cleaning software went through and wiped that off. And you see this sometimes too at the beginning of a movie that somebody has worked on. A lot of times the licensor will have cleaned it for you and given it to you. And sometimes it's not the best work that you've ever seen. And you got to put a disclaimer on there. I mean, there's just nothing you can do with it. Things like that with the cigarette disappearing, for example, which I've seen. If someone hands it to you, you can't put the cigarette back. You'd have to go back and get the whole original raw scan, re-clean that segment, and put it through. It's tricky.
It comes down more to like, okay, what's more important? Do we go through all that trouble to try to get the raw materials to do it again, or just get the movie out there? It's got to be a tough choice because you want to do it right, but sometimes they're not giving you much of a choice if they're trying to sell you on this thing that they already done.
Yeah, it's true. And where I just saw that was on the new Vinegar Syndrome release of Burning Paradise.
Oh, really?
Which is actually on my list of favorite releases of the year.
Ah, okay.
So
Teaser.
that wasn't intended to be any kind of segue, but that was on at the beginning.
Yeah.
And but Burning Paradise was a movie that I had rented on VHS from a store in Chinatown in Philadelphia and watched, and it looked like absolute garbage. It was full screen,
Ugh.
and I put this on and I'm like, oh, I wonder what this is going to look like. And the answer is it's beautiful. It looks fantastic. I mean, but I remember watching just this garbage VHS from 30 years ago.
Yeah.
So it was such a pleasure to watch that movie look like that.
Yeah.
But, you've got to put a disclaimer on there because people are going to look at that and say, oh, look, this is smooth here and there's this here. And I am sure that whoever they got that from in Hong Kong had already done all this work on it and they were handed it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes you can only make a movie look as good as you can make it. You know what I mean? You can only push the material, the elements so far to where like you can't do anything else. I mean, I think we talk a lot about that when it comes to the new trend of putting older films in 4K resolution or using HDR, which we've talked about several times here on the show. And it's just kind of like, does this old material lend itself to be able to do this, or are you just kind of, make it, will it look worse because the resolution's so high and the quality of the original elements are so poor? And you know what I mean? How far are you also remastering it? It's a lot of questioning with all of those things. I think we brought that up. I think that was brought up one time, Stephen. Was it the Arrow release of Legend where people were upset that it was just a Blu-ray release and not a 4K release? And I
Yeah, because
believe
Yes.
Arrow came out and said, like, the elements are just specifically for the director's cut, Ridley Scott's director's cut. The elements are just not, they wouldn't look good in 4K. They just, because a lot of those shots that were reinserted into the movie were not finished, and then when they put them back later on, they just weren't really finished to a higher quality. I think it was something like that. I'm probably paraphrasing it, but it was similar to that situation, and that's why that release was only a Blu-ray release and not a 4K release. So it really all depends on the movie and the material. And I think we've talked with a few people on here, like, what's the decision about like whether to go for Blu-ray versus 4K when you're releasing it? Is it financial or is it have to do with the movie itself? You know what I mean? Like, what factor does that play into
I'm
it
sure
all?
it's both, really. It's
Yeah, because I'm assuming
Yeah.
it's a whole new expense for 4K, and for high definition and for
we
all
know
that stuff.
we know Cauldron's about to delve into that soon with their new City of the Living Dead release.
It's true.
Yes.
Yeah, and we learned a lot over that process. Now we didn't do the HDR color grade or the Dolby Vision. We handed that off to David McKenzie at Fidelity in Motion, who does a lot of the big releases.
We literally hear that
and
we hear that name. I think everybody uses David McKenzie.
I think you're right.
We talked to his brother, Michael, that works for Arrow before, and
Yeah.
we need to see if we can get David on the show because he literally apparently works with everybody.
He's got to. I mean,
Yeah.
I know he works with Synapse and Arrow and us, and it wasn't cheap to do that, but the question was, here we are with the City of Living Dead. We've got this, you know, upper tier Fulci movie, one of the best Italian horror movies. It's something that we just absolutely love. Brian and I both, we had never intended to license a movie that had already had a bunch of releases. And when City of the Living Dead came across our desk, I was like, oh shit, it's City of the Living Dead.
Yeah, I was gonna say you can't pass that one up.
It's literally a movie that I've been watching since I was 15 on VHS, and then into the Anchor Bay days, and then Blue Underground, and then we were like, well, if we're gonna do it, if we're gonna buy it, it's got to be a UHD. There's no choice. We got to do it. We got to spend the money, and we got to give this to David to do because, you know, he's the best. And he's going to tell us, you know, this is going to look like garbage on UHD or this is going to look fantastic. And the answer is it looks great. I mean, it looks so great.
I was going to say
I have watched.
I already pre-ordered it, so please
Well,
don't
thank
tell
you.
me. Please don't tell me it looks like shit.
I have watched both the new Blu-ray and the UHD a couple of times each.
Yeah.
They look fantastic. And
Awesome.
plus I love the movie. I just love the movie. So I can't say enough about it. I'm so excited for people to see this release. And we have a whole disc of just extras.
Oh.
And you know, everyone has just bought the limited edition. There's nothing else. So you're all getting the CD, which is incredible. And you know, we decided that because it is this beautiful new master that we've spent a lot of time working on, that we're going to include the Blu-ray, because there was an initial thought like, doesn't everyone already have this Blu-ray? Why does anyone want this? We'll just release a UHD. And then I was like, but you know, it's a different version. It really,
Yeah.
I mean, the content's the same, but it looks so different.
Yeah, I was going to say it's an upgrade on the Blu-ray, so it's
right,
yeah.
right.
And
so
for
we
people,
thought that it was fair to include it.
Yeah, for people that ain't maybe completely transitioned to 4K but are thinking about it, they'll have that option later and already have it if they go ahead and get this. So
yeah, and that was a conversation we had too, because while the both of us are 4K compatible, there was a while that we weren't, but we were buying things that came with a Blu-ray that we could watch now, and then we'll have the 4K for later.
Yeah, kind of future-proofing yourself.
Yes,
in terms of like, if you ever want to make that transition, you already got some content to watch.
Next thing you know, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, next thing you know, we're gonna have to go ahead and start putting the 8Ks in there.
I doubt it. I doubt. I keep bringing it up, saying that this is the last format, but they could prove me wrong. They could prove me wrong.
I always think that, and I think for a lot of movies, Blu-ray is the final frontier for that movie. There's things that I just don't need. I don't need a 4K UHD of Mac and Me, right? It doesn't need to happen. I have to have a Blu-ray of it. I have, but I don't need that in 4K. Blu-ray is the final format for Mac and Me. Let's just say it now.
As soon as you bring up Mac and Me, I start to think about the Mystery Science Theater of that, where they pretty nice. They just keep saying pretty nice.
I'm still thinking of just the fact that there's still movies we're waiting to get Blu-ray releases being upgraded from DVD. You know what I mean? There's a lot of I particularly my passion lies with classic, old Hollywood cinema. A lot of those movies, a lot of those catalog of the big time studios, whether it be Universal, Paramount, who just woke up and starting to put out their back catalog of stuff, or whether it be 20th Century Fox. I don't know what's going to happen with that back catalog. Who's going to keep putting out those Blu-rays?
They'll put out Alien enough for you.
I guess they're going to just keep putting out Alien and Die Hard
and
every
Predator.
year, I guess. And, and it's just like, and of course, Warner Brothers is with Warner Archive. How long is Warner Archive going to be around putting out those back catalog of movies? You know what I mean? And there's a lot of stuff where, like you said, we're waiting. Blu-ray is such a still vital format for a lot of that component of it. And then, there are a lot of classic movies being brought to the 4K format. A lot of the stuff that people already probably have owned like so many times over. Casablanca just got a UHD release. Lawrence of Arabia's got a UHD release now. It's a Wonderful Life. Yeah. I mean, Double Indemnity just got a Blu-ray, just got a 4K release from Criterion. I mean, there's a lot of classic movies. I mean, Wizard of Oz has a 4K release now, and that movie has been released so many times. And it's just like, I'm wondering, what about the movies that haven't gotten releases? Where are those gonna go? And I mean, I think Blu-ray is where those will go, and I think that's where they will stay. I don't see a lot of those getting 4K releases. A lot of the stuff, it's a miracle they're just getting Blu-ray releases in general. Some of them at this point. And so we're hitting, I wouldn't say plateau, but we're hitting that threshold now where this is the best we're going to get, and what we're getting is damn good. like
Yeah.
better than
Yeah,
we've ever gotten
it's so
before.
good, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
some movies that we've covered here on the show that we have found, whether it be streaming or some people have uploaded to YouTube for VHS rips, and it's just like these are unwatchable qualities, and then you see a Seven or a Vinegar Syndrome or a partner label or Cauldron Films or whomever put it out, and it's like this movie's never looked this good
I
ever.
mean,
Probably even when it came out,
Yeah.
it
I
probably
mean,
didn't look this good.
there's even some good stuff. I mean, like I just saw the test some of the test images of what Golden Ninja's putting out White Zombie, and they did a good clean on the White Zombie, and
I
that's
saw
it
that.
looks a lot better like what they did with that, and that's an old film, and
Yeah,
um
I think that's one of the first kind of zombie
zombie
movies
films, yeah,
properly. I
yeah,
mean, a lot of stuff before that was like voodoo magic type stuff.
yeah,
Um, yeah, that's very that's fascinating. There's a lot of there's even a lot of older Blu-rays that need those movies need to be remastered too, but that's a whole other different discussion.
Yeah, that's
Um,
something else too.
yeah,
yeah,
And
yeah,
that's because the
the early
format's
days
always
of the format were not kind to a lot of movies, like Pulp Fiction and Reservoir Dogs, which those are very welcome upgrades.
Oh,
Um,
yes. Oh, I remember Reservoir Dogs was probably one of the first Blu-rays I ever bought, and because it was one of the earlier ones that was released, it was like that, like Usual Suspects. A lot of the Blu-rays, I've said this many times before, a lot of the Blu-rays put out in that early corridor window from like the mid to late 2000s all need to be re-released and
oh yeah,
remastered in some way. All of them
they're
do.
all problematic.
They all have either MPEG-2 codecs or VC1 codecs. Um, they've all got, just issues, or even the sound is not even lossless sound. It's just like
Yeah,
it's regular Dolby stereo sound or whatever the case may be. But it's
yeah,
a lot of that needs to be upgraded. We're seeing a lot of those things being released right now. And it's all being released through the boutique labels. None of the mainstream people who actually own the movies really want to touch them.
yeah. It's really
They
strange.
yeah, a lot of them just like are just licensing them out to other companies because a lot of the major companies don't really care a lot about physical media right now when it comes to their own catalog of stuff. I mean, a lot of the mainstream movies that come out now, the new blockbusters, the new dramas, Oscar movies, whatever, they get Blu-ray releases, but it's kind of bare bones discs. Like you're lucky if you get a commentary on them. You really
Yeah,
do, or maybe a little behind the scenes, couple of interviews that are like 5 minutes long, or not even. So they're not really. They're just kind of putting them out just to put them out, maybe because it's in the contracts and it's not necessarily, something they want to do. I know Disney has probably scaled back a lot about that. And I know, when it comes to the TV market, things have scaled back tremendously when it
yeah. Let's
comes to
not go.
yeah.
home
Please,
video.
let's not go down that
Oh
rabbit
yeah,
hole. Please.
Steven, reel me in.
Let me reel you in
I,
because you're going on a ramble. You're going on a ramble.
I'm going on a ramble because I'll just say this. Yeah, TV has taken the biggest hit when it comes to physical media, I think.
But look at Westworld. Where are you
Mhm.
going to watch that now if you don't have a physical disc of it?
And nowhere. That's the thing.
We
Yeah, that's right. And that's a big budget show. I mean, it's not some little show that they made one season of and swept it under the rug. This is
No,
they did
it's
four
not a
seasons of
cult.
that?
yeah.
It's not a
Yeah.
cult show. It was set up to be HBO's next big time show, a la like Game of
Yeah.
Thrones level of like ratings and buzz and people talking about it. And then now, if you don't own the DVD or the Blu-ray or the 4K, you can't watch it streaming anywhere because it's just gone. Yeah.
Well, the word that I understand is that they did that so they don't have to pay the actors residuals,
Wow.
Yeah,
and that
I've heard a lot about that too.
they're going to license it out to people that now this is just what I've read, so I don't know, I don't have any insider information, but that they're going to license out to stations that have commercials so that they're making revenue off of it that they're going to pay the actors
Well,
from that.
can't wait to watch it on Tubi.
Yeah, right. But did you guys watch Perry Mason on HBO?
I did not get
Yeah,
to watch. I wanted
right.
to.
Yeah.
But I just saw they're doing a second season.
Oh wow.
Oh
So a show
wow.
that I don't know anybody that watched this show except my wife and I, and it was great. But that's what they're going to spend their money on is a second season of Perry Mason. Now I'm happy because I thought the show was terrific, but it's a
Yeah.
weird line, right?
Yeah, right now that whole Warner Brothers HBO situation
Discovery.
Weird.
is fascinating, and
Yeah.
it could bleed over to, well, it has already bled over to the movie world, but I'm just saying the physical, media world. I'm just waiting for that domino to fall. I'm waiting for it to impact their Blu-rays and their 4Ks and stuff like that because it's already impacting their streaming. And if they're trying to cut costs, they're gonna go with the lowest rung stuff that where they can find ways to cut costs. I mean uh, that happened with Warner Archive already, Stephen, where they kind of closed that whole department. We had who did we have on that I can never remember?
I'm going to
Steven?
remember this name, Matt Patterson.
Yes, we had Matt Patterson on from Warner Archive, and we talked a lot about that when that whole AT&T Warner Brothers thing, merger happened, which is now not even really a thing anymore because
That only
they've been
lasted
sold off.
like 2 years.
Yeah, they've been sold
Yeah.
off again. But he talked
Yeah.
distinctly of how much effort Warner Brothers put into streaming and digital marketing and stuff like that, and scaled back when it came to Warner Archive, and just the physical media world in general. And it's like, how long before that happens yet again? Not only there, but other places.
Yeah.
Just because I think the bubble of streaming is starting to leak, and it's just a matter of time before it starts affecting the physical media world. Luckily, boutique labels are kind of not quite affected by that for the most part, Steven. I find like just because like that seems like to be the outlet of a lot of the bigger studios. They can just be like, hey, we really don't want to put these out ourselves. Let's sell this license off to whomever, so we can just make some money off of
It's
that, and then we'll
beneficial.
just
It's
give them the
beneficial.
material,
It's
and they can
beneficial
do.
right now. Right now, I think
Yeah,
like you've said, this has kind of been a plateau spot for
yeah,
physical media because people the studios are looking for ways to make money, and if they can just
mm,
send it off to somebody else to do it, they will. But another label that you did decide you not only have Cauldron, but now you've decided to partner up with Jared from over at Mondo Macabro, and
It's
you're
true.
starting up Neon Eagle. So tell us a little bit.
Yes.
Tell us about Neon Eagle.
Neon Eagle is really Jared's baby.
Okay.
And Jared came to us and said, "Hey, do you guys have any interest in doing this label with me? I've already bought something." And Mondo Macabro wasn't interested in doing it. So he said, "Do you guys kind of want to partner up on this?" I mean, basically, it's almost like a Cauldron Films partner label.
Yeah, yeah.
So again, Brian did the work. Now the first release is Kill Butterfly Kill. There's literally 3 versions of the movie. So poor Brian had to go through and fix 3 versions of the same movie. And the good thing is that the 3 versions share scenes. So
Yeah.
he could take those scenes and put them in all 3. But then all 3 movies have unique scenes. So he had to go through and fix everything.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, the movie's terrific. All the versions of the movie are terrific. They all bring something unique to the table. And when Cauldron Films started, we had a long laundry list of things that included a number of Hong Kong movies. And then COVID hit. So dealing with the Chinese distributors was impossible. Everything was closed. They weren't doing any work. And they were just like, when this is all over, let's talk again. And then when it was all over, all of a sudden, everybody had all the Hong Kong movies. Like
Yeah.
they just went in and scooped them all up.
mm,
So, that kind of was a pisser. I mean, we're very happy with the movies that Cauldron has, but for example, Error 444
Yeah.
4 4/4s.
Four Force. Yeah.
Yeah, 4/4s. They did Red Spells Red, and Centipede Horror. Those were 2 of the movies that we had on our list.
Oh man.
But hey, you know what? It's great because we have them. We have them out in the world now, which I
Yeah.
love. And they announced that they're doing Fatal Termination, which we were in negotiations with the licensor for that, and they came back with the craziest price of all time for this movie. And when they announced they were doing that, I sent them an email. I said, "There's no way, right, that you paid this amount of money for it." And the theory that we have is that they were offered the movie for X amount of dollars before us, and then this licensor came back and said, maybe we can get more money from these people.
Yeah.
So they just highballed us.
Yeah.
So that's the theory that I think happened. But again, another movie that was on our list that, but a competent company has it and is going to put out a great release of it. So
yeah,
exciting.
Exactly. And there's tons of that Hong Kong stuff to mine.
So much.
Goodness.
Yeah.
I mean,
this new Vinegar Syndrome box set has Deadly Camp in it, which was a movie that in the early days of Diabolic DVD, we sold the DVD for $9.99. And that was importing it from Hong Kong and paying for the shipping, and still was $9.99. So
dirt cheap.
I laughed when I saw that on the list. I was like, oh my God, Deadly Camp. Here we are. We've come full circle now. Deadly Camp on Blu-ray.
Yep, definitely. So, yeah, we got, so we got our first Neon Eagle announcement. Do we know when? It's probably not going to be another announcement for that probably until after the first release is out sometime.
I think that is the plan. The second Neon Eagle title is actually a movie that Cauldron had bought from Japan. And after Jared brought this to our table, we said, hey, well, you know what? We've got this as well. So we rolled this into a Neon Eagle release.
Yeah.
I'm not ready to reveal what it is yet. But it's going to be pretty soon. And it's great.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Awesome,
it's a really nasty 70s Japanese movie, which there seems to be no end of those as well. So we're really excited about that as well. The whole label is going to be a blast. These movies are lowbrow Asian movies that really deliver, what the trailer promises.
Yeah. Well, that's great, man. That's great. When this label was first announced, I was like, here's just another sector of cinema that I'm going to get to learn about,
Yeah.
But there are a lot of labels that are delving into Asian cinema, but this one's specifically going into kind of exploitation-y kind of stuff that I'm getting more and more into exploitation. So I want more of it. So I'll be excited to see what else they got coming.
Yeah, thanks. I'm excited to share everything. It's kind of overwhelming keeping it all a secret, to be honest.
Yeah. Oh, I can't imagine. But all right, Jesse. Well, thank you for sharing a lot of that stuff with us. And yeah. And so now, so that we don't keep you too long, let's try going down our. We all got a list of our favorite releases from 2022. And we're gonna go one by one, go around and share a release, and then at the end, if you have any few extras, we can share some honorable mentions. So Jesse,
sure.
being the guest of honor, please share with us your first 2022 release that you really loved.
Well, it's a little bit of a cheat, and I don't have them all here in front of me, to be honest, because a lot of them live at my workspace.
Yeah.
Now, this technically comes out this week, but the Mondo Macabre version was released last year. So this is, I got a lot of glare here between my lamp and my TV.
Yeah, I see it.
So it's a haunted Turkish bath. So, not really a cheat, but when we licensed the movie that we're releasing with Neon Eagle, Jared came to us and said, who's your contact at that label? We have some things we wanted. And that is one of the things they got out of that deal that they made with the Japanese. This easily could have been a Neon Eagle title. It is so wild. The first half of it is kind of this mean-spirited Japanese exploitation movie where this really awful guy um, kind of makes his, I guess it's his wife, maybe just his girlfriend. I don't think it's exactly clear, but um, sells her into prostitution, and then prostitution is made illegal, so they just turn all the brothels into bathhouses. So it's basically prostitution with a bath now.
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden there's an evil cat monster for the
Gotta
last
have
half of the
that. Yeah.
movie. Yeah.
A
So
la House.
you have this really nasty Japanese movie that's kind of one style, and then all of a sudden it flips over to this crazy revenge style ghost cat movie.
Yeah.
And it's terrific. And it was a first time watch. And that for me is the best discovery, is when you find these hidden gems that, you take a chance on watching, because there's a million things everyone wants to catch up on. And then it's just so terrific.
Yeah. Yeah, they had a release. Once again, I'm blanking on something. There was one release Mondo had earlier that was, I think, right around the same time that was released, and then God, I'm blanking on it. I'll find it later. But yeah, I think we watched. I remember
I
that
remember
plot
we
line.
covered it when it was announced.
Yeah, I might have watched it because the plot line sounds so familiar. But because we watched so much stuff for getting ready for shows, I could have watched it. I don't know. But
Yeah.
but it sounds like a lot of fun. And what Mondo does, I'm just starting to get more into Mondo Macabro, and they just got so much great stuff that I'm discovering over there that I got to buy. So
I have got literally every Mondo release starting from when they were in the UK.
oh
It's
wow,
always been one of my favorite labels. So it was such a thrill when they wanted to do this Neon Eagle, when Jared came to us. But also I love those guys over there. So
yeah,
it's an easy top 5 pick for me for 2022.
yeah, and I'm getting that Bollywood horror set.
Oh,
Can't wait for
yeah.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah, Steven brought that up and one time, remember? And it was just kind of like, yeah, it's just what a random set.
it was
What a random
right away.
set.
As soon as I had the money to buy it, I was like, I'm getting that. But
Yeah.
Andrew, what is your first pick?
Oh man, I
saw you
got stuff.
scrambling around over
Oh,
there.
I'm scrambling. I'm scrambling because I got stuff around me constantly. But I guess first of all, I'll go with the easiest one first, and this is me. I guess does it have to be boutiques?
No,
Steven
it'd
doesn't
be
matter.
whatever you
Okay.
want it to be. It's
So first up
2022.
is going to be the 4K of The Godfather. Just because it's the Godfather trilogy, but it does include the recut of Godfather Part 3, Godfather Coda. I think it's what the Death of Michael Corleone, I think, is in the official title. The interesting fact about this set is the original cut of Godfather Part 3 is in it, but it's like on a separate disc way in the back, so that maybe you just don't notice it. It really pretty much telling you that, yeah, that's not the official version of that movie anymore. But the reason why I brought this out is, one, obviously for its classic nature and its importance in mainstream film history, but also the fact that it looks amazing. That it just, like, they really, Paramount has really kind of woken up over the last couple of years and really invested a lot of time and money into their back catalog of doing 4Ks and then Blu-rays, but really opening up the coffers and putting in a lot of effort, which surprised the heck out of me because they were dormant for a very long time in terms of, like, their back catalog of stuff. Even their more well-known stuff, they were kind of given a little older lackadaisical Blu-ray treatments too. I think of, like, early Blu-ray releases of something like Sunset Boulevard. That's something that I wouldn't be surprised if they go back to and put out a Blu-ray 4K of, or something like that. But yeah, because this movie looks fantastic, and I'm always um in favor of them re-releasing these old movies because it gives them a chance to um clean up and make the movies look better than they've ever looked before, but also kind of preserve them even longer because, as we all know, The Godfather's been used so many times and viewed so many times that the old original elements, I think, eventually ended up falling apart. I think that's what Coppola said in his special feature one time, that they made so many copies from the original negative that it just it just disintegrated or something like that. So it's nice that they're able to preserve these movies. And this is a nice set. They released a much bigger, more deluxe set that was tougher to find, but I went for the standard regular edition.
Yeah.
The bigger set, the packaging was so flimsy.
I didn't
Oh,
like
was
it.
it?
That's what I saw too.
No,
I
it
did
was
not
not
like the
good.
packaging on that.
I was not happy with it. I mean, they look like garbage when they came into me. So
Wow.
by the time
Mm.
I'm shipping them to anybody, they're going to be double garbage.
Mm.
Yeah, I bet you the discs probably it was one of the, I think it was one of those where the discs probably got loose because I remember people
Yeah,
opening it up and there's the discs would already be out. I mean,
it's
and
terrible.
once that happens, it's not pleasant.
No.
Yeah. All right. Well, the first one I'm going to highlight now. This one I think I would say I want to highlight this one because I really like the movie and the filmmaker. I mean, it's a good release, but the thing is I don't think there's any features on this release. But it's a filmmaker I'm really enjoying, and a release that came on early in the year that I don't think people were remembering very much, and that's from the label Altered Innocence, Pals.
Mm,
Which is from
yes.
Eli de Iglesias. And he's a filmmaker I'm really loving. I'm loving all the stuff that's been put out by him, whether it's Severin stuff, put out like Cannibal Man, put out the Kinky films. I'm really loving his work, and this film Pals is great. It's kind of like it's like a friend. It's like a girlfriend gets pregnant. He's got to find ways to make money. Gets into weird. They do weird things to get money. Like they start selling drugs for this crime guy. It's a weird movie. Weird kind of sex comedy teenager thing that only Eloy de Iglesias can tell it in a way that is kind of dangerous yet kind of loving. There's some good music in the film too. Yeah, I really enjoy his films, and I just thought this was one I wanted to bring up, even though, unfortunately, there's no features. I really wish they would have put some features on there, but yeah, it's just a film I really liked and wanted to make sure I brought up. So, Pals, Eloy de Iglesias.
We did his Murder in a Blue World,
Murder on the Blue Road. Yep.
and it was tough to get extras for it because he's gone. Sue Lyon died while we were making the features for it. So and COVID was going on, so it was tough.
Yeah.
So sometimes getting those special features together are really rough.
Yeah, I understand. I definitely understand. I know sometimes there's not a lot there.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we've talked about people who've gone through heck and back trying to make features, trying to track people down
what
all over the world to try to
if
do
nobody's
something.
seen the movie and has enough information to do a commentary or anything about the film, then there isn't nobody to talk about it. I mean, it's not. I get it. I
Yeah.
just still wish there was some. Okay, I'm not upset. I'm not.
It's tough
like
sometimes.
I like the movie, so that's enough for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, all right, Jesse. What did you get? What else you got next?
All right. I have got that. This one was something that was only available from the director's website. Now, I always get the title of this wrong. It is the Out There Halloween Mega Tape, which is technically the WNUF Halloween Special Part 2. So
Okay.
what they've done is made a fake documentary about these people who are investigating a UFO cult. And it's supposed to be a network broadcast, so they have fake commercials all throughout it that are all really clever and really well done. And if you're a fan of the WNUF special, which is terrific, then you should also be a big fan of this. And I just want more from Chris that directed this. It's so great. There's something really big in his future.
Yeah.
I'm sure of it.
Yeah, I got to check that out. I've never heard of that.
It's great. They did the WNUF special was one of the TerrorVision titles that was a Vinegar Syndrome partner label, but they've since
Branched
left.
out. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, but it's still available, that title.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, I have to check into that, man. Awesome pick. Andrew, what you got
Ah,
next?
yes. Okay. As I'm scrabbling
He's
around
ready.
and
He's
over here.
ready. Not
I'm
really.
ready. I've got one. I just gotta get back to the tab where you guys are, so I can actually see myself in frame. One that I'm gonna pick is a re-release that Imprint did of a movie that had a kind of a, I believe, a bare bones kino release from years ago, and that is On the Beach, the Stanley Kramer film. And the reason why I'm picking this release is one, because they gave it the super kind of deluxe treatment with their hard cigarette style box and whatnot, but they also loaded it up with special features, which was a welcome surprise because, like I said, the Blu-ray release we got over here didn't have, I don't think, anything on it. And it also came with a second disc that I believe is just kind of a documentary as well. Yeah, it's a Fallout. It's a 2013 documentary, and I just really like this film when we had to review for the show. You know, starring Gregory Peck, Ava Gardner, Fred Astaire, and Anthony Perkins, and it's kind of like a what if, doomsday scenario type movie. And I find myself really liking it a lot. It's very political, of course, being done by Stanley Kramer. That seemed to be his thing back in the day, was him making these political commentary films back in the 50s and 60s. And yeah, I really like this release a lot. Um, just yeah, there's a pleasant surprise for me, and I know this ended up selling rather quickly, as a lot of the Imprint titles do, as Jesse may or may not probably knows, but these are selling hotter this year than I think Imprint's ever sold before, and a lot of their stuff just ends up selling out really quickly. So I'm getting able to get one before it did was, I thought, fortuitous for me at least. So yeah, On the Beach by Imprint.
It's one that's in my pile of things to watch. I've
Yeah.
actually never seen it at all, so it'll be a first time watch when
Yeah,
I
I
finally
hadn't
get
seen
to
it
it.
until we had to cover it. That was another
Yeah.
one of those where I kind of guess was one that I was missing that other people probably had already seen.
Yep. Still got to get it. It's one of many. Imprints. Like you said, it's a
You can't.
label that
It's tough to keep up.
they put out a lot, but it's also just that their stuff's a little pricey. So
Mm,
you
Yeah.
wait to the right time. You wait for the right time, but then you can't wait too long because then they
I have to
become
say,
hard to find.
I
Yeah.
have to say, their Black Friday deals were good, but
They
it's
didn't
been a month and a
realize
half, and they haven't even shipped my stuff yet. So
Uh,
it is tough,
they
but it is a tough
they
situation. It
were
was
in
their
the
first
middle.
time.
I know they were in the middle of moving to another location. Their
Mm,
warehouse was. I think that's
yeah.
part of the reason why
Yeah, I'm
they're
just
so
saying that
behind.
because, it's a big undertaking to have a Black Friday sale of any kind, and there's a lot of logistics that need to be put in place for that thing for it to go well. Because once people get that Black Friday fever, they go crazy. I know their site crashed as soon as their sale went live. So that just
Yeah.
tells you everything you need to know
Yeah.
about
yeah.
people's fervor, to get stuff.
All right. Well, my next pick is one that was another great discovery for me this year, and I can't wait to pick up the other two volumes plus the other double feature that Vinegar Syndrome's putting out with this filmmaker, and that is Doris Wishman, The Twilight Years. This was the first group of films that they released from AGFA. So yeah, not Vinegar Syndrome, but it's an AGFA release, plus Something Wild. So, but when we covered this on the show, um, back when it first was announced, I watched Deadly Weapons and Double Agent 73. Loved both of them films. So endearing, just so fun, and just the fact that it's a female director doing these kind of risque type of movies where
Mm,
you literally have a very well endowed woman just using
yeah,
her tits to like shoot you like a gun. Like
yeah.
they're,
Sexploitation to the
I mean,
extreme.
yeah, and it's just they're just really, like I said, endearing movies. Like they're what I'm not going to sit here and try to compare it to the Shawshank Redemption. It's not what we're trying to do. But these have their place, and I've gone on to watch some of the other films. I went to the end of this set and watched a movie called Love Toy, and that whole movie is literally a guy a man who's kind of a gambler that gets in. He loses everything he has with this guy he's playing these poker games in his house with, and basically he sells his daughter. Basically, he's like, I'll give you all your stuff back, but you got to let me have a night with your daughter. And he, in desperation, does it. And then can't take it back, and then so the whole rest of the movie is this guy playing sex games with the daughter for like an hour and 20 minutes. And there's something about it that's interesting. Like it's, she's a very fascinating filmmaker, and I can't wait to keep going through her stuff. So yeah, that once again, another great discovery. And I love how they do the sets where they're can be magnetically put together like that.
My shelf doesn't like them though, because I've got like 10 of them.
Yeah.
And 10 of each volume, and they're all stuck together on the shelf.
But yeah.
So I literally have 30 pieces of those stuck together on the shelf.
Like a block or
you gotta pry them apart.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, it's a great discovery for me. I can't wait to get the other. I'll probably pick them up at the next sale. But yeah, please go check out Doris Wishman. She's a really interesting filmmaker. All right, Jesse, what is your next pick?
My next pick I don't have sitting here.
Okay.
But it is the Criterion Lost Highway UHD.
Nice.
Yeah, Lost Highway just hits everything for me. It's my favorite Lynch. It's such a great movie, but also it is so creepy and unnerving. And I don't know that it makes a whole lot of sense, the whole movie, but I just love everything about that movie. It's far away my favorite Lynch, who I love too. So, that's saying a lot.
I have to agree with you. I think I kind of, the more I think about his filmography, a lot of times I go back to Eraserhead. I really love Eraserhead, but honestly, after watching Lost Highways, probably for the second time, I was like, I think this is my favorite. This is my favorite Lynch. So
I mean, there's so much to choose from. I mean, Elephant Man's terrific. I adore Blue Velvet. Blue Velvet was probably the first David Lynch movie that I saw, and at the time that I saw it, I didn't get it or appreciate it at all. I was just like, this is what everyone's crazy about, this Blue Velvet. It was probably Twin Peaks that really started. Now I watched that. I guess I was maybe in college when that was on, so I watched that in real time unfold, and it's just terrific. And I think Lost Highway takes the best elements of the weirdness of Twin Peaks and makes that kind of narrative out of it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, good pick. I haven't been able to. I haven't picked up the disc yet, but
I still need to get it.
Because I've heard it looks great. I heard it looks
great. Ironically, is that I think I just bought the Kino Blu-ray like
I have the
year.
I waited a couple months ago.
Yeah, so. I waited. Like I was like, oh, I guess no one else is gonna release this, or I guess this is the best we get. Is this Kino bare bones Blu-ray? So I guess I'll just buy it in one of their many sales they have for like less than $10.
Yeah, it was literally $5 when they were trying to get rid of them before their license was up.
Yeah, so. I bet. Yeah, and it's like I got that disc now, and now I want the Criterion. So now I don't know what to do with that disc. I don't need it.
We had a similar situation happen with the the Thriller release from Synapse.
Such a weird thing.
Yeah, where it's
that was because that was a little different because they tried to release that like kind of simultaneously.
Well, no, what it was is that they tried to release it with a cut of the movie that wasn't really restored, I think, fully or something like that.
But I just talk about like in terms of like timing of the release. Like they tried to release those like very close to one another in terms of when they were supposed to come out.
It was right around the time that the Synapse one was being put out. I think the Vinegar Syndrome one was being announced like slightly after it had just been released or something like that. Yeah. But it's weird. That was a weird situation. I don't really know what happened there, but we got the Vinegar Syndrome release.
All I know is that the Vinegar Syndrome, that thing sold out
good.
Quick.
It's a good movie either way. But I'm glad we got it. But Andrew, what's your
Yes.
next one?
My next one is the BFI 4K release of Get Carter, the Mike Hodges film, who Mike Hodges just recently passed away.
Yeah.
Rest in peace, Mike Hodges. We've been talking about him a lot lately on the podcast in the last year or so because a lot of his movies have been getting releases, and a lot of people have been discovering his work or rediscovering his work. But this is, of course, the movie starring the Michael Caine. And I know they did a remake with Sylvester Stallone in what, like 2000 or
That
something
one's
like
better,
that.
man. That
I
one's better.
bet.
No, I'm just kidding.
I've seen
It's
them
got
both.
Stallone.
Yes,
Yeah.
Stallone. Yeah.
Michael Caine. I never even heard of that guy.
I've
He doesn't
never
use a
heard of that guy.
cane.
That's
It
just
looks like he
Alfred.
walks fine.
I
That's just
know.
Alfred.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess so. But the biggest surprise for me when it comes to this release is not only the fact that it looks amazing, is the fact that it is just loaded with endless amounts of special features, interviews and conversations and all kind of behind the scenes and just scholarly work about the movie. And there's even an interview with Mike Hodges on it from 2022. So probably one of the last interviews he did before he passed away. So this is just a welcome for me because I never owned this movie in any other format. Didn't own the DVD or the Blu-ray release that I think Warner Brothers put out years ago, which I think went out of print because this was on its way out. Kind of surprised they haven't released it here in Region A land yet because this is a Warner Brothers release. Technically, they got their logo all over it, but it is technically put out by the BFI in the UK, but it is region free as UHD currently is. So I do highly recommend this disc. Unfortunately, it doesn't come with the Blu-ray, counterpart. It's literally just the 4K disc.
Yeah,
Well, I
Just
mean, the
separate
the
good,
release.
version of the movie.
good thing about that is any features that are on it are region free. So
I guess that's
Yeah.
also true.
yeah,
Now that
that's a good thing.
now that I open up it, yeah, I believe it's just. Well, it does have a Blu-ray, but I believe it's a special features Blu-ray. And
Well, then
Okay,
that
then that's
then
bad.
then that's
yeah, I
bad.
was gonna
Yeah,
say maybe you could take
never
that back,
mind.
Steven.
Yeah,
Now that I
It
open
might
it
never
up,
mind.
now
You
that I open
know,
it up, yeah.
technically the special features should not be locked, but they probably are. But
Yeah,
when
I've noticed that on
when we
several discs. Yeah.
yeah, we didn't put any for the City of the Living Dead. We didn't put any extras on the movie discs
yeah,
so that we didn't have to lock it. So
that's
all
good.
the extras are unlocked.
That's good. That's good. Yeah.
And by the way,
Yeah.
for Get Carter, I very highly recommend. Last year they put out the Limey,
Yeah.
Oh
which
yes,
which
I
was
got
really
that.
weird that it was a 4K steelbook at Best Buy, but then there's been no other release of it.
I
That
think
was the old version of it.
yeah. I would say I
Yeah,
think they'll end up probably releasing a
I hope
regular
so.
version of it. I guess it's
Yeah,
weird the way a lot of companies are doing that now. Lionsgate's doing that.
yeah, a
Sony, I
lot.
think, maybe doing that, where they're putting out the steelbook first and then the regular edition later. Where I thought it would be much easier to do the opposite, like a regular edition first with standard packaging, and
It's
then
a
a special edition steelbook later. It's annoying.
it's a strategy for collecting. They know the
Yeah,
Yeah,
collectors like the steelbooks. They
and then like they'll put out both at the same time because I know they just announced Training Day. Warner Brothers just announced Training
yeah
Day,
yeah.
and they're putting out steelbook of that as well as a regular edition. Do not like the cover art on either of any
No,
of those releases. Kinda, it's pretty
let's not
lazy
start
graph
talking
art.
about bad cover art because then we got to talk
Uh,
about like
yeah,
the new 100 the Disney releases recently came out. All that crap.
mm,
yeah,
yeah. I'll say this: boutique labels have the best cover art of anything. They really do.
yeah.
Most of the
I
time. Yeah
mean,
yeah
yeah. There's a group of people that kind of everyone's been working with that are so great. Um, they've just been knocking it out of the park with everything.
yeah yeah. We've had a couple different artists or designers on. Scott Saslow does a lot of design work with a lot of he's done a lot of Arrow stuff. We've had Sister Hyde on, and she does a lot of great work.
Terrific.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
she
So
did. She did the Criterion Elephant Man. She did Martin Scorsese shorts, if I remember correctly.
she did my
Uh,
pals release.
yeah, she did the
She
Pals
put the
release. Just
nipple.
brought
She
that
put the
up.
nipple on that slipcover.
She did our Collingswood story release.
There you go.
Awesome.
There you
Yep.
go. Awesome. All right, my next pick's one of the big guys. One of the big guys. One of the ones that a lot of people talk about, and that is this Drive 4K release.
Whew.
Oh, I hate you for having that.
I know.
Yeah.
Sorry. But yeah, amazing release.
Yeah.
It's got 2 literal books in it. Like one's the novel of of Drive, and then
Shelf space be damned.
well, I've never cared about shelf space. Why would I start now? So yeah, amazing release. Some great features, some really cool features in this. I know Nicholas Winding Refn had a lot to do with this release when it came to design. Because when we talked to Philip Escott, he told us, he was really involved with, getting. They sent it to the lab to the team that did this film originally, so they knew how it needed to look. The 4K transfer looks amazing.
My favorite story
yeah.
is when he talked about trying to hunt down the original elements of it, and they couldn't find them.
Yeah. It was on a
because-
drive somewhere. They thought they lost it forever.
Yeah, they had lost
Yeah.
it. It was on a drive somewhere in some archive. It's
Some
like
new
crazy
movie.
that Refn didn't even have it, I guess.
Yeah.
Crazy.
But yeah, some of the features in here are really great. If you're following the Shelf Shock Rewind Awards, there's a couple of these features that are put in there. But yeah, it's I'm sorry for people that weren't able to get this. I'm sure it's going for like $2,000 now on
It's not that
eBay.
expensive, but it is
Yeah.
expensive.
Yeah.
And I don't always like his movies, but I always want to watch them.
Yeah.
And I'm always interested in what he's doing. He had that show on Amazon called Too Old to Die Young, which was basically a 14-hour movie. And Amazon just doesn't give a shit about this thing, and it's just buried on their streaming service, but it's there. And now he's got a new series on Netflix that just started this week. And it's really curious to me that these companies keep giving him money to make these streaming shows when he doesn't really seem to be a big box office draw. It's not like he's making big movies and then these streaming shows.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's not really a complaint because give me all of the Refn stuff. I want it all. Neon Demon was so cool, and
I love
love
Neon Demon.
Drive. The Pusher
Bronson.
series is so good.
I think about Bronson a lot.
Yeah.
That's the movie that sticks in
Bronson!
my
I
head.
forgot he did. That's terrific, right?
That movie is haunting. That was another movie. I have this thing where I watch movies late at night, like the twilight hours.
That's literally the only time you watch movies.
Yeah, like basically past midnight. I watched Bronson. I probably watched Bronson at like 3 a.m. and it was one of the most surreal experiences you could ever have because it's like a music video for most of that movie, like just
greases
psychedelic
himself
music
up.
video.
Yeah,
greases himself up and fights everybody. That movie's terrific. I forgot about that.
Yeah, and he did that. I never saw it, but it always looked interesting. Only God Forgives.
Oh, I saw it.
It's terrific.
Is it cool?
I liked it a lot.
It's a unique movie. I mean, another film he did that people really don't talk about was Valhalla Rising with Mads
Mikkelsen. Rough movie. I forgot about that too. Jeez.
Yeah,
I love this guy.
What am I doing?
Yeah.
You just keep bringing up all these movies. I forgot there were even his movies.
Even
I love them.
Well, actually, one of his works that I'm kind of really waiting for a deluxe edition to come out of is his Pusher trilogy. It kind of his early films. And it's like those movies really haven't seen any real quality Blu-ray release or anything like that really anywhere. It's mostly just on DVD. And
it's coming from it's coming from Cauldron. I know he's holding it back. He's acting like he doesn't know what he's talking.
I would love it, believe me. I will be honest that it's on my list of things that I would love to do. They all just popped up on streaming, all three of them. I can't remember what channel they were on, but I saw them on. I use the Just Watch app that shows you everything that's new, and it was on something weird, like what is it, Paramount Plus or?
Jesus,
that's
a random place. Yeah,
that's a random place
for the movies.
I went to the Fantastic Fest in Austin one time, just once, and one of the programs they did was Nicholas Winding Refn picked a movie out of the AGFA archive to show and came out and introduced it. And it was Farewell, Uncle Tom, which is the movie where a documentary film crew goes back in time and documents slavery, but in a really lascivious and exploitative way.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, it's just they made an exploitation movie about slavery, for Christ's sake. And I just saw that Blue Underground is.
I was just
I
gonna say,
think they're
isn't
doing
that
a
the
4K
movie?
of it.
Yeah, that's the movie that Blue Underground's doing a 4K on, and
Yeah,
they just came out with an update about it, saying that that they're working on it.
yeah, that movie's
Yeah,
something. So I
yeah.
saw it in a crowded theater, and Refn introduced it, and I'm maybe a little embarrassed to say that that was the third time I'd seen the movie because I saw it on DVD when it came out, and then we showed it at Exhumed Films one time, and then I was like, okay, I never need to see this movie again, and then again I saw it the third time. So and I'll buy the 4K, but
Of course you.
I don't
Well,
think I ever need to
obviously
watch
you
it
got to keep
again.
watching it.
Yeah, I don't know if I have to watch that movie again. Well, I'm going to jump in because I was going to say Drive as well.
Oh,
So
okay.
I'm going to say another Second Sight release, which is their release of The Witch.
Oh, yeah.
Which is terrific.
That's a great one. Yeah.
It's great. It's another big set, just like the Drive set. It's gorgeous. And goddamn, I love that movie. You know, I saw that at the same Fantastic Fest
Yeah, yeah.
that I saw the Farewell Uncle Tom. And Robert Eggers was there to introduce the movie. And I had never heard of the guy. I just heard whispering of this new movie coming out, The Witch. And yeah, I was blown away by it. I love the movie. And this release is really terrific.
Yeah, it is. It is. The commentary on there by, I think her name's Anna Balakowski. I can't say her last.
Oh
Can't say
boy.
it.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Don't ask me
look it
to.
up.
But
Let me look this
she's
up.
really good. I know she's like a film. I believe she's from the UK and she's a writer. But her commentary on there is amazing. And the book, you know, it's literally a hard book in that
Yeah.
package. Yeah, great release. You know, Robert Eggers is a filmmaker. I'm not like super fan of The Northman, but The Lighthouse, I love The Lighthouse.
I thought it was terrific.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
am I forgetting
Yeah.
something? No, that he's got 3 movies.
Yeah, but
That's
he's
it.
working on Nosferatu. Is I think
Yeah.
maybe his next film.
Hopefully,
Which,
I'm really,
you know,
yeah.
when he was doing the interview rounds for Northman, he said that was dead. He said he wasn't doing that. So I was a little surprised to hear that he was doing it. So,
It's been a rumored for a long time, and I think he keeps getting. There's rumor that he keeps getting somebody else has picked, you know, helped him finance it. Blah blah blah. I don't think that it's ever been legitimately like we know that it's coming. So I think it's still a rumor, but
I hope it's coming.
I hope it happens one
Yeah,
day.
and that
Yeah.
the person you were talking about, Steven, is it says here audio commentary by film writer and broadcaster Anna Bogutskaya.
Yeah,
yeah, see?
yeah. See,
Yeah.
there's a reason why I couldn't pronounce it.
Yeah, it is a rather difficult name.
I'm not even going to
pronounce.
attempt it because I don't want to embarrass myself.
But yeah,
Steven's
great.
not afraid to.
I'm
He's not
afraid
afraid.
to. I'm not afraid to embarrass myself.
He is not afraid.
Sometimes I do it on purpose, just because it's part of
Just to see what
who I am.
happens.
Yeah.
I guess
I thought about messing up your name, even though it's an easy name to say. I was thinking of saying your name like GC
Oh, boy.
Nelson. You know,
I get Jeffy all the time.
Jeffy.
Jeffy. Yeah.
Yes, is right there. I mean, yeah.
Yeah. Who knows? But yeah, Witch release, great. Second Sight, you could just go all day with Second Sight. They're pretty top.
Yeah, I'm slowly falling in love with their releases, which is not good because now I have to go back and get The Witch.
A lot of them are.
And try to track down Drive.
You can get the standard editions, but yeah.
Don't insult me, standard edition.
Sorry. Andrew, your next pick.
My next pick is a movie that I waited years to finally get announced, and it did come out right around my birthday, actually, and that is John Waters' Pink Flamingos, the Blu-ray
Nice.
from the Criterion Collection. This was rumored and anticipated for many, many years, pretty much since the moment they started putting out his movies, Multiple Maniacs and Female Trouble. It was just a matter of time, I guess, before Pink Flamingos showed up in the Criterion Closet. This is now in the National Registry, and it will be preserved for all of time.
I was gonna say, I finally watched this movie with this release. I bought this release, and it needs to be in the registry.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's the midnight movie
the
of midnight
movie
movies.
that somebody eats shit in. I mean, it's
You
It's
know,
it's an
it's a shame
experience.
that's what people remember the movie for, because
I know,
There's so
it
much
is
more in it.
so funny
it
Oh, it's
is, it
hilarious.
is.
all the way through. And I love the egg lady.
Yeah,
I just
Oh, Edith the
I
Egg
love the
Lady.
egg lady so
Yeah, she's
much.
in love with the Eggman, naturally. I
Yeah.
mean, it just it's what in John Waters' work. I've talked about it a million times here. His work
He's
is
in love with
so.
John Waters.
I
I
mean, how
love
could
John
you not
Waters.
be? He's so unapologetically himself and unique, and he also, I think, emboldens a lot of people to be themselves, whether they believe that they're weird or they don't fit in society. But to him and to kind of the movies that he's making, it's like you fit in this kind of, carousel of weird people. You know what I mean? And it makes you feel okay to be yourself, because no one is weirder than the characters in his movies. It's just impossible. I mean, but Pink Flamingo is one of his most notorious movies, kind of his first breakout film, because the movies he had done before this were a couple of shorts, and then Multiple Maniacs was kind of one of his early first features. But this was the one that really put him on the map, and he's working on a new movie now, actually, finally, after all these years of kind of being in hiatus and just writing books and stuff. So when this got announced, I had to get it right away. Cool packaging too. If you see it wrapped up as like someone would send you a package in the mail, that goes into that's part of the movie and stuff. Incredible film, just something you have to experience,
Yeah, yeah, the rare slipcover from Criterion.
which
Like
they
Yeah.
don't do often.
You know, John Waters has one of my favorite quotes, and I'm probably not going to get this correct words for word, but he said one time, if you're going out with someone and you go home with the person and they don't have any books, don't fuck them.
Yeah, that's from his
Well, I
stand-up.
love that. I
Yeah.
agree 100%. They don't have any books. I
Yeah, he's got endless amounts of quotes. I've watched his stand up, This Filthy World, that from like 2006 a million times. I have it on DVD actually. I know he's supposed to shoot a part two to that, like a more recent one. I hope that gets some type of release somewhere. But yeah, just watch interviews with him when he talks about his favorite movie of all time is The Wizard of Oz, and the reason in the way he describes that and whatever. Just he's an amazing individual.
love him.
Um, yeah, he did the commencement speech at one of the local colleges several years ago at RISD, and yeah, and it's kind of ironic because I think he opened it saying it's kind of ironic that I'm getting an honorary degree because I've been kicked out of every school I ever went to, and it's like, yeah, I guess so. I think he said like, yeah, just go out in the world and fuck shit up. I think that was what he told the kids, and I'm like, good, good,
Yeah,
tell him.
love it.
All right.
Steven?
Well, my next pick, the only box set technically on my list. It's hard. There's a lot of great box sets that come out every year, but I went with, and this was also tough because there's 2 volumes of this, and I think because I've been going through this one fairly recently, I really wanted to put this one out, and that's the second volume of the After Dark Neo Noir Cinema series. Great collection. If you listen to this show, you know me and Andrew are big noir fans, and neo noir is no exception, of course. And honestly, going through this set, I think I might even enjoy the films in this set more than I enjoy from the first set. There are some great ones in the first set, but there's something about this group of films that I really loved. Blue Steel, the Jamie Lee Curtis film, that was directed by Catherine Bigelow, is a really cool film that I hadn't seen. That the features really opened my eyes to what that movie's about. Like, it has some really interesting kind of interpretations that have kind of been awakened through the years. And then Internal Affairs with Richard Gere. You see Richard Gere like you've never seen him in this movie. He's playing a bad guy in this movie, and
He's like he's a dirty cop.
he's a
Right?
dirty
Yeah.
cop, and he's really intense in this movie. Crimson Rivers is basically your Seven, but in in France.
Yeah, that's with Jean Reno.
Yeah, and it takes it to the mountains of France, and it's a cool movie as well. The Way of the Gun, Christopher McQuarrie film. He's mostly known for working with Tom Cruise now and
Mission
everything he
Impossible.
does. Yeah,
Super underrated movie, by the way. Way of the Gun.
yeah, Way of the
Yeah.
Gun is super. Yeah,
Great kind of Mexican standoff climax to the movie.
yeah,
It's so
Bloody well
good.
done.
yeah. It's very clever writing in that film. The Yards, which is a James Gray film, which I think James Gray is an underrated director. I've talked about this. I like to connect movies that don't really connect, but like this film and another film he did, We Own the Night, are a very good double feature, I think, because they're both kind of noirish, both
Kind of street level movies.
both have some of the same actors, Joaquin Phoenix, Mark Wahlberg. It's a solid film. And then it ends with Narc, which has got, the late Ray Liotta in it, and then
Jason
Patrick, who shows up in a lot of these. I think he's in 2 films in the first set.
He was in a lot of those gritty movies in the 90s.
Yeah.
I just feel like because he's in one of the movies in the first collection. He's in
2 films.
He's in Rush. Yeah.
He's in Rush, and he's in a good. Was it My Sweet something?
After Dark, My Sweet.
After Dark, My Sweet. Yeah.
Yeah, which is also a great movie too.
Yeah.
Based on a Jim Thompson novel.
Yeah. So, Narc is kind of one of them films I remember seeing when it first came out, and I was young then, so I didn't really think much of it. But
Joe Carnahan. Right?
Yeah, Joe Carnahan, and rewatching it again, it's a really solid film. I really like it, and very intense opening, and it's another great set. I hope they do more of these because they're just really a good way to get a good chunk of solid films all in one set. They are pricey, but you're getting a lot.
I hope they do more and they lower the price just a little bit.
Yeah, that's the dream. That's the dream.
That one's a little expensive.
It is. It is.
And for me as a retailer, getting those in from Australia and pulling the first one out of the box and it's crushed is heartbeaking.
Yeah. It's got to be.
It's
got to be. I would
just thinking about it.
I would be in tears a lot of times. All the stuff I'm sure you have to set aside to not sell has got to be ridiculous.
Yeah, I didn't realize that was such an issue with retailers.
Well, the thing is too, for him, he knows that if there's just one damn bent little corner,
people are not going to buy it.
People ain't going to want to. They're going to give him shit later for selling it to him. So
it's true.
Yeah. So
I guess it's my turn.
This is the final pick. This is the number 1, I believe. So
I have so many things left on my list here, but let's do this. I have to give a shout out to, and I've already talked about this plenty, to our own release of Contraband.
Of course.
And a big shout out to my partner for bringing this back from the dead. If you guys haven't seen Contraband, it is a Lucio Fulci Italian crime movie with Lucio Fulci levels of gore in it. So it is just bonkers and mean-spirited. And there's a really, I don't think we've ever mentioned this anywhere, but there's a really nasty rape scene in the movie. And we chapter stopped the rape scene so you could actually skip right over it and go to as soon as it ends, so you don't have to see any of it if you don't want to. I don't think we've ever mentioned that we did that, but it's true. It's really rough. But the movie is great.
Yeah.
But before we move on, I just want to give a couple shout outs to a couple of labels. And we talked about Error 4444. Their 2 Category 3 releases that just came out not that long ago of Red Spell Spells Red and Centipede Horror are terrific. And, I think that recently a lot of labels have picked up these Category 3s like Unearthed, did Dr. Lamb, and Untold Story, and Vinegar Syndrome did Ebola Syndrome. Those are the kind of marquee Category 3 titles. But these 2 are kind of the they're not bottom of the barrel at all. Is not what I mean to say, but they are the lesser known, and people should really seek them out if they like the Category 3 movies. And the other label I wanted to shout out to is Fun City Editions, who's one of the Vinegar Syndrome partner labels, who just keeps picking these cherry titles out of, I guess out of MGM's vault. And they did this year Married to the Mob, which is a great Jonathan Demme movie. They did Cutter's Way, which is really great, and Natural Enemies,
dude, yeah,
which is also a real
I got
tough
them all
one.
next to me.
Yeah, so huge shout out to them. Now I will say that I saw they were doing Parker Posey's Party Girl, which also just popped up on the Criterion channel. So I got really excited and watched it, and I fucking hated it. I thought it was terrible. But
that was a heck of a twist there.
yeah, but I will say this: it's a product of a time.
Yeah,
and my wife really enjoyed it.
There you go.
It just wasn't for me.
It's not for you. Yeah, I get it.
Understandable.
Not
everything's for everyone.
Andrew doesn't know this right now, but we are going to have Jonathan Hertzberg on for a special pop-in next week for next Tuesday, just to talk to us about this new, him doing Fun City's going to team up a little bit with MVD. And with the new Party Girl release, we're going to talk to him a little bit about that stuff for a little special pop-in episode in the middle of next week. So
he's been on before. It was sometime last year, actually about a year
when
ago.
Born to Win came out is when we had him on last. So that was beginning of the year last year, around this time last year.
He's got a terrific eye for picking things out, and I just hope it continues. I mean, even Party Girl, I'm so glad that it's getting a release, because it is kind of one of those great cult movies that is just disappeared. It's not for me, but maybe it's for you.
I watched it. It was fine. I mean,
I watched it on.
It's not my favorite. It's not, to me. Some of the other films that came out during the year, like Coca-Cola Kid, and
terrific.
And some of them were better discoveries for me that I liked more. But and like Born to Win was another one that I just really loved. I mean, it's fine. I'm not. We're going to talk about it a little bit more later in the show.
I was going to say, save
don't mention I said it.
No. I'll cut this part out now.
That's a preview of things to come.
But yeah, that's great. It's great. Yeah, all them smaller labels that are just not getting as I think people have a fervor for hopefully there gets to be more attention for labels like Arrow 444, and I think Fun City. I think there is a fan base that's growing quickly there.
They're terrific. They're those titles are all Criterion level titles. I mean, I'm surprised that Criterion didn't have Married to the Mob.
Yeah, that was one of the biggest surprise releases of the year.
Considering they put out Something Wild, which came out around the same time in Jonathan Demme's career, that would kind of make sense that they would scoop that movie up as well to show to have in their collection.
And Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah, and Silence of the Lambs too. It's like they have everything around it. It's like they have everything around it. They just decided that I guess we'll skip over that. But weird. For me, I guess I'll go with my last title here. And my last title, I guess to no big surprise, is the Shawscope Volume 2 set, which came out right at the end of the year. We had anticipated this, I guess, since the first one came out. They already previewed this, and this came out right around early December, and it's just as impressive as the first set. I think maybe even more impressive just because they did it again. You know what I mean? They recaptured the same magic when it comes to the packaging, when it comes to the movies in the set. And also I really like how this one looks next to the first film. The first box set, where the first one is blue, this one's more of an orange color. I felt like those two color schemes go very well together if you're portraying it on the shelf in your collection. And yeah, this is once again another wonderfully crafted set. Really, just well to do with the book packaging, with the large booklet inside. It's rectangular, not the most shelf friendly set, but it is a nice display piece. And I just love the fact that we're getting so much of the back catalog of the Shawscope films and all of that. I mean, right now it seems like there's a handful of companies, as you probably know, Jesse, that are just chugging out Chinese martial arts films every single month.
I love it.
Eureka, 88 Films, Arrow seem to be doing it all. They're like in an arms race of who can put out the most in so much time.
Yeah.
And it's tough to keep up of who's putting out what where, because some companies will put out the same one will put out the movie in the UK, one will put out a US version, one will have one that came out a couple of years ago that's getting a re-release now from another company. It's a whole big thing, kind of carousel and puzzle to kind of figure out. But this set here is kind of a great baseline. I think the first volume and this volume, if you're looking for, a place to start collecting Shaw Brothers films, I think these two sets are really a great place to start, because they're just a a cross collection of stuff from the 70s going up through the 80s. Especially this set has a lot of their later stuff, which I know, isn't exactly their prime stuff. Especially going into the 90s, it's just kind of unique to see kind of the changing of their style throughout their history.
Yeah.
If anyone has that box set in their possession and has never seen Boxer's Omen,
Oh
pull
yeah.
that out
Yeah.
and watch it tonight.
It's a good one. Yeah.
I want a box set of all of those crazy Shaw Brothers movies because there's so many of them. But Boxer's Omen, it might be the best. But then there's Seeding of the Ghost, and there's they did Mighty Peking Man in the first one, and The Oily Maniac, and then even some of the kung fu movies like The Buddha's Palm, where they fight a giant foot at one point. There's just such crazy stuff in their catalog. I want it all. Give it to me.
Well, they seem to not. From what I understand, I think there's at least a couple more of these that are kind of been confirmed. I believe
There's
I don't know.
750 Shaw Brothers movies.
Yeah.
Oh
So,
yeah, they made movies for decades, from like the
yeah.
50s all the way up through the 90s. Really,
Yeah.
their catalog is deep. Them and Golden Harvest made movies for decades, and it's kind of nice that all of them are getting a relative deluxe treatment now, especially when it comes to the way the movies look. The movies look very, very good. And it's really nice. And I know a lot of these movies have already seen the light of day when it comes to DVD and VHS and stuff like that. But it's just nice that a lot more people have access to them
Yeah.
in high quality releases.
Yeah. All right.
What's your
So
final one, Stephen?
my final ones. Sorry, Jesse. I know we went longer than I thought we would.
It's fine.
Yeah.
When you said 90 minutes, I was like, sure.
Yeah, sure, whatever. He's fucking lying.
I know.
Sure, dude.
Steven
90
talks
minutes.
too much. That's
Good
fine.
try. No, you talk too much.
I know,
Shut
I
up.
do.
Yeah. So I'm gonna highlight a couple real quick that are kind of honorable mentions because I want to get Indicator in there because I'm a big fan of Indicator's releases.
Yeah.
The Pimeni organization. These were films I don't know if anybody heard of them until this was put out. The first short film in here, Hunted, amazing, really great film. All set in one room where a guy wants to use a sniper kill somebody in the street, and there's a lady that's showing the room the guy's in. It's an apartment room, and she gets caught up in trying to stop him from doing it, and it's just a whole movie of her trying to talk him down, and it's great. It's fantastic. The other two movies are great too, but the big thing about this is look at all the features for films that you've never heard about. Look at
that. Quite a paragraph.
Yeah. So big release for me. I think one of the most underrated releases of the year. Another one, and this isn't just because you're here, Jesse, but I love this film.
Oh, good. It's upside down now.
It is upside down.
Yeah.
That's what I meant to do.
Shanghai Joe.
Yeah.
Shanghai Joe.
Oh, I'm so glad.
Love this film. It was a fun, like when you announced it, and then I watched it for the show. I was like, dude, I love this. I told Andrew, I was like, I'm buying this right away as soon as this is ready to come out. And I started watching some features on it. I love the East meets West Italian style feature on there. It's great. I it talks about how there's this whole genre of East meets West, and now it makes me want to go look at some of them other films that kind of follow the same kind of genre. So yeah, really fun movie. This is just one of the movies that you can just put on at any time and just you don't have to I mean, not saying you don't want to pay attention to the movie, but you don't have to like you don't have to. It's just one of the movies that you could just put on, and it's just there's always a scene that'll pop up that's just so fun, where he's beating the shit out, he's fighting somebody, just really inventive stuff, and it looks great. The transfer looks really great.
Thank you so much.
So my number one, and if anybody's been following us for a while, they know what my number one's going to be, because I've been shouting it for a while. And that's the Severin release 4K of Out of the Blue. It's just such a great film. It's a film that kind of was, kind of in limbo when it came to any kind of really good release of it. And finally we get a really great release. Severin initially, I think, was going to just put a Blu-ray out, but then they realized that they needed to go the extra mile, so they put a 4K out. And just a really great film. Linda Mans is an actress that just had a short life in film, but what she did was really impactful. And Dennis Hopper, of course, this is kind of in the middle of his, I believe he would just come back from rehab. And well, that probably happened a few times.
I was just gonna say which time.
Yeah,
you should listen to watch the special features for the American Friend, and watch Vin Vendors tell about having to basically have him go to rehab before they could even make that movie, because he was so out of it after doing Apocalypse Now with Coppola.
Yeah. But basically, with Out of the Blue, he took over this film and kind of, he became the director and put his stamp on it. And I just think it's just an astounding film. And the features on this it's one of the I think one of the great extras packages of the year. Kat Ellinger's commentary is really amazing, and just tons of great features on here. That's my definitive, I think, number one for the year was this Out of the Blue release. But of course, just tons of amazing releases this year. You can't go wrong. Yeah.
Yeah. We have come into such another great age of home video here, with everyone just kind of digging all this great stuff up. And I'm so glad to have it, and so glad that we have this boom of physical media, not just because I have the shop, but because I'm such a movie lover as well. And I love being able to explore these things. Even Party Girl.
Of course. He's pulling back, guys. He's pulling back on it. No, it's good. It's like, I hate that damn movie.
I really did hate it, but I'm always glad to watch something like that. And even if I don't like it, it's it was a product of its time.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. There's always going to be movies that we buy. There's some movies in my collection that I bought out of curiosity, and I am like, I don't really need to watch that again. And it happens sometimes. And even though they sell it like it's something that's really like worth your time, but that's movies. Movies are subjective, and something's going to hit you, and some for some people, like your wife, and then some people it's not going to be for them, and it's fine. Yeah. But sometimes there's things I keep just out of relevance. And as they say, you can't have some sunny days without some rainy days. So throwing in a crappy movie every once in a while is okay too. I mean, somebody will enjoy it,
Sure.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I guess if you need space on your shelf, you should probably get rid of them though. I don't know. That's just me. But let's let Jesse go, man.
I know. It is late.
All right, guys.
We still have...
Well, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.